welcome to the Health Geeks Book Club podcast. Listen in as Kristen, Norton, and Eleanor Russell review all those great health and wellness books you've been wanting to read or you have read and want to talk about. Here's Kristen and Eleanor.
Welcome to the Health Geek podcast, where we discuss health and wellness books. Get ready for good conversation, information, and inspiration on living a healthy lifestyle. I'm Kristen Norton, and I'm here with
Eleanor Russell.
And we like to read, but not what the average person enjoys reading. The fiction, fantasy, etc. We geek out on nonfiction books that help us understand how to live our best lives, and we're here to share that with you. Maybe you want to read these kind of books, but you don't have a ton of time, or they get too technical, or they just don't hold your interest. Well, follow along with us as we talk about our biggest takeaways from health and wellness books and how we do or don't implement the advice into our daily lives. So today we're going to share just a little bit about what this podcast is going to be and why we're doing it.
Well, Kristen, you said I'm here because I like to read books, and all that stuff that you just talked about that nobody else likes to read, you described me to a T. Most of my friends say, why don't you just read fiction because it's fun? And I say, no, nonfiction's my wheelhouse. I love it. And I do get all excited about detail and analysis and thinking about what the science community has brought us, because I was trained as a scientist, and I enjoy rumbling around in that territory with all my colleagues that are out there doing some really killer stuff and writing articles and publishing it in the journals and reporting in the medical literature or the scientific literature. But then they know that people aren't going to understand that or even see it. And so this idea of transferring research into practice is what I think a lot of these books are about. And it helps the general public have access to all this great information that we're learning about our health and wellness. And so I'm so excited about discussing these ideas with you.
Yeah, and when we first met, we sat down and had a one-on-one after meeting at a networking group.
Right.
And we got to talking about these health and wellness books, and I was so elated to find somebody like me who geeked out on this kind of thing. And you mentioned research articles. I can't read research articles.
Very few people can.
Right. They're complicated. I can't sit down and focus on them, but I want that information. Mm-hmm. That's why I dive into these books, because usually there's some storytelling, there's some other explanation that helps me digest. So I'm so grateful that these books are out there and that I found you to geek out with about these books and to, share our love for this with the community who wants to get this information but doesn't like the research articles or maybe doesn't have time to read the book.
Well, right. And, we're living in a time where everybody is very keenly aware of having good health and how important that is to us, because once you get sick, a lot of times you're going to end up in a health system that's really disease-oriented. And I'm of the opinion that what you prevent doesn't need a cure. And so staying healthy as long as you can is probably a really good thing for all of us, because you can engage in your life. You're put here for some great reason, and it allows you to feel good enough to go out and do it. And there are little things that we can incorporate into our lifestyles, make a healthy lifestyle. But how are we going to know to do that if we've never been in a culture or a family or a city that, sort of supports those ideas? So we're hoping to build a community of folks that are wanting to, get into this healthy lifestyle thing in a very easy and fun way and have great lives.
Yes, absolutely. And I am a registered dietitian with a private practice, and I help people really make behavior changes around diet and lifestyle. And I've come to realize that, wellness incorporates so many things. It incorporates your physical environment and your physical health, your community that you live in, the sleep, the stress that you go through, exercise. And so you and I are going to read and talk about books that cover all of those
things. That whole constellation of what wellness really is.
And help people not only know what's in the books, but, how to implement that in their lives, and we'll discuss the challenges.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I think you and I have talked about, sometimes people think because we love this stuff so much, we lead these perfect lives and that we do all these things. And we're just like everybody else. We're challenged with the same stressors and decision points and lifestyle, structure that the modern society gives us, working unbelievable numbers of hours and pulls from family, children, our parents, our, loved ones, and then our friends. So, yeah, we're all in this together, but we're going to do it differently. And we got tools, and we're going to be talking about those tools.
Absolutely. And I cannot wait.
Yeah. Well, you said that you're a registered dietitian, and I'm a registered scientist. Not really. I spent a lot of time teaching over the years, but I was trained as an ecologist. And so I look at the human body as, a complete organism, but it's all these communities living together in there. You've got, the liver cells that are a little society, and you've got your brain cells, and you've got the bloodstream that's moving between it. And then we've got all these microbes that are living on us and in us. And then this whole body is in an environment and gets exposed. So in my work with people, I look at the exposures to toxics, things that we can reduce our exposures, because we know that evolutionarily we didn't develop with all these chemicals that we're exposed to in our normal lives. And what do all these chemicals do when they meet each other, but they were never tested against each other because they were tested for their uses? So we have created quite an interesting exposure limit for ourselves. And so that's what I get excited about. And my product line that I help people use if they're selecting products to support their health are very non-toxic, natural products. So we'll talk more about that at another time.
Yeah. I love your science background and what you can bring to the conversation. Also, what makes this interesting is our age difference.
Yes.
So I'm a millennial and you're a boomer.
I'm a boomer.
So we can bring different perspectives as we read and discuss the books based on our generation.
Yeah, and because, at the place we are in our own lifestyles, we're confronting different challenges.
Exactly.
And looking at how that should add some dimension to our conversation, I expect.
Yeah, so we're really excited and hope that you join us on this journey for these book discussions. And you can look for us and follow us on any podcast network like Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, and I hope you'll stick with us because we're just getting this started and it's going to change as we go along. We're looking for input from our audience.
Absolutely. Stay tuned.
Views and opinions stated in this podcast are solely those of the contributors and are not necessarily those of our distributors or hosting company. This podcast is copyrighted, and no part can be reproduced without the expressed written consent of Kristen and Eleanor.